So as we all know, Terence Crawford is very obviously doing the best he can to secure a future fight with Saul Canelo Alvarez, likely for September of 2024. And yes, this is a huge mega fight. This fight would generate a lot of money and would easily be the biggest fight of Terence Crawford's career, as well as generating the biggest payout in his career, win, lose, or draw financially. And if he does win, obviously the biggest payout of his career off of achievement, beating Canelo Alvarez, moving up 3 weight classes to do so, and becoming undisputed in the 3rd weight class would honestly make Terence Crawford an all-time great, easily securing him in the top 10 greatest fighters of all time, in my opinion, and honestly surpassing Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao as an all-time great fighter, which I know is kind of weird because Pacquiao and Floyd have obviously fought much deeper amount of high-level opponents, but beating Canelo Alvarez would just be too much to deny. I'm sorry, that would be absolutely phenomenal. However, as a fan of Terence Crawford and as someone who views Terence Crawford as either his favorite or easily one of his favorite fighters in the entire sport, and he's been one of my favorite fighters in the entire sport for a very long time, I don't want him going for this Canelo Alvarez fight. And even if he does go for the Canelo Alvarez fight, I want to see him fight in the first half of 2024, preferably April or May. And I would like to see him take on Jaron Boots Ennis. And by me wanting him to fight Jaron Boots Ennis is my indirect way of saying I don't want to see him fight Canelo Alvarez. I know the upside, I know the potential and the possibility of it. And honestly, I kind of do want to see him fight Canelo Alvarez. But at the same time, I still think he could accomplish so much at 147 still, specifically by taking on Boots Ennis, and then accomplish a lot at 154. And then maybe call it a day. I think 168 might be jumping up too much, and I respect the ambition, I respect the goal of Terence Crawford. I don't see him pulling a Mikey Garcia or a Jermell Charlo and letting himself get dominated to a comfortable decision or quitting in the stool or anything in that range. I would see Terence Crawford coming to win against Canelo Alvarez, and I do think he is capable of pulling it off, even though I do think it would be a massive, massive task. But I want to see him fight Boots Ennis, and here is my reasoning. I have a few key reasons to why Jaron Ennis should actually be Terence Crawford's next fight and the fight that he should be trying to make. Now, first of all, let's ignore the obvious fact that Boots Ennis has a very bright future in the sport. He's a tremendous talent. He's undefeated. He's looking sensational. He's a top 3 welterweight currently, and he's honestly probably going to be in the pound-for-pound list relatively soon within the next couple of years, right? If we ignore all those facts for Jaron Boots Ennis, if we throw away his natural ability and what he's going to accomplish in the future, let's just look at the fact that Terence Crawford technically isn't undisputed anymore, and Jaron Ennis is now holding that IBF title. I feel it would be a nice little accolade. It would be a nice little addition to Terence Crawford's resume, assuming he beats Ennis, of course, of being a 2-time undisputed welterweight champion. Being a 2-time undisputed welterweight champion would be a nice little addition to what he's already accomplished. As well as him beating Jaron Boots Ennis. If he beats Ennis and then fought Canelo Alvarez, he would be a simultaneous undisputed champion at 147 and 168, which I think is phenomenal and unheard of and would continue to solidify Terence Crawford as an all-time great. If he can beat Boots, which I would personally still pick him to beat Boots, even though Boots is a really good fighter, and I would personally predict Boots to give Crawford a tougher fight than Spence did. Assuming he beats Ennis, I'm very sure that Crawford would rather be a current 2-weight undisputed champion instead of just being a unified champion at welterweight and then being an undisputed champion at 168. Another reason why he should fight Jaron Ennis is Jaron Ennis has done a lot of talking. He's now a champion. If he beats Jaron Ennis, he will obviously shut up a lot of haters, a lot of people that are actually accusing Crawford of ducking Ennis, which I find hilarious. I think anyone accusing Terence Crawford of ducking anyone is already laughable, as he's proven time and time again. He was accused of ducking Sean Porter. Let's not forget those good old times where Terence Crawford was accused of ducking Sean Porter and then he fought him and stopped him. He was accused by many of ducking Spence, which I knew he never did, and him fighting Spence in 2023 while Crawford being the older man and having an age disadvantage, yet still fighting Spence and beating him and making a statement. I think that looks very good for Terence Crawford as well. Beating Jaron Ennis would shut up a lot of people. It would be a really good win on his resume. He would be a 2-weight undisputed champion simultaneously, assuming he fights Canelo and then beats Canelo, which is obviously another massive ask. But I feel Crawford would prefer to be undisputed heading into the Canelo Alvarez fight. Even though everyone knows deep down he is undisputed, he technically isn't. And it would be nice for him to have the status of being an undisputed fighter currently. I think a fight against Jaron Ennis would be tremendous. I personally just want to see it as well, not just for the fact that it makes sense for Terence Crawford, not just for the fact that it'll hugely benefit him currently and in hindsight, because obviously that win's going to age like fine wine when Ennis becomes a champ at 154 and then eventually a champ at 160 and becomes a pound-for-pound fighter. That win will age tremendously for Terence Crawford. It makes a lot of sense for him to go for it now. And it's simply a fight I want to see. Is there a problem with me wanting to see what would be an extremely, extremely fun fight? Terence Crawford and Jaron Ennis would be a complete treat for the fans. Can you guys name that many fights in the sport that would be more fun to watch, more enjoyable, more fascinating, a more unique blend of styles than Terence Crawford and Jaron Ennis? I mean, that fight would be so great for the fans as well. Ignoring all the logical reasons Crawford should fight Ennis, I want to see the fight as a fan of the sport. I think the fight would be tremendous. I think it would be entertaining. And I think it would be very fascinating as well. I think Jaron Ennis will surprise a lot of people, because I do expect him to do very well in the first half of the fight. Maybe even be up on the cards. Maybe even be wide up on the cards. 58, 56, 59, 55. I think Jaron Ennis is going to prove himself to be an elite, truly elite fighter against Crawford, even when he does lose. Because I expect Crawford to win, probably by a late stoppage, where the fight's really back and forth and very competitive, but Crawford just has too much experience, too much seasoning, and comes on too strong late for Ennis, who does have shaky defense. The fight would be tremendous. It'd be entertaining. It's a fight we'd all want to see. It makes sense. I don't want Crawford fighting Canelo personally, even though I do think the fight would be cinema for the fans. I at least don't want to see it happen next, and it's not going to happen next, because I think we're all very confident it's going to be Jermall Charlo next. Maybe a slim chance it's Benavidez, because Canelo said it would be an American that he fights next, so maybe it is Crawford. Maybe it's going to be Canelo and Crawford in May, but Canelo never has his bigger fight in May. He always has his bigger fight of the year in September. The fight in May is always a warm-up for the fight in September. Let's look at all the years he's had in the past. Even last year when he fought John Ryder and then Jermell Charlo. I understand John Ryder was naturally the higher weight than Jermell Charlo, but Jermell Charlo was obviously the fight that got more anticipation. In previous years, he fought Billy Joe in May and then Caleb Plant in September. We all know Caleb Plant is a better fighter than Billy Joe Saunders. I don't care what anyone says. When you continue looking at the past, the fight in May was always the warm-up. The fight in September was always the better fight. I do think, even though Crawford's moving up multiple weight classes, Crawford is a bigger fight than anyone Canelo Alvarez can fight. So we all know that Crawford is going to, best case scenario for him, assuming he fights Canelo next, not have anything to do until September aside from train. So I wouldn't mind seeing him fight Jaron Ennis. I actually would love to see him fight Jaron Ennis, hopefully in April or May time. I think that would be tremendous. And also, Ennis is a big guy for the weight. He's big, he's strong. It wouldn't be a terrible warm-up for Canelo. I understand there's a huge weight class difference, but there are worse guys he could take on to prepare for Canelo Alvarez. But I want to see him fight Ennis because, as I said, I want to see Crawford establish himself in the weight classes around 147 and 154. Beat Jaron Ennis, beat Tim Tszyu, beat Virgil Ortiz, beat all these guys from 147 and 154, and then call it a day. That would be a tremendous way to end your career, and that's what I hope Terence Crawford does. You guys tell me your thoughts in the comment section below. What do you want to see next from Terence Crawford? What do you expect him to do personally? Do you think he should go for Canelo next? Do you think that a Jaron Ennis fight makes sense? I think it does, and I would love to see it. Tell me all that good stuff down below. Have a good one, guys. God bless. I'll see you guys later. Peace.